Hello everyone, my name is Steve Gralla. I'm alongside with Miguel Reyes. We are the Florida Technical Reps. We'll be on site with you guys for your first couple jobs with this Vulkem EWS system. First and foremost, there is no smoking around this product. It is a highly flammable system. Also, wear safety glasses. Safety glasses are very important when mixing and applying the material. If the material is initiated with the Part B, it can cure on your eye if it is to splash into your eye. Another recommendation is to wear long sleeves. If the material does get on your skin, since it is a two-part system, it will heat up, so you want to remove it off yourself as soon as possible. Another recommendation is wear respirators, especially in an enclosed area with poor ventilation. You're going to want to use respirators. This material does have a little bit of a smell to it. Okay, next we want to go over some basic equipment for the Vulkem EWS system. First, we're going to start with mixing paddles. You want a spiral mixing paddle or a jiffy paddle. You do not want to use the square, stucco, or concrete mixing paddles. The spirals or the jiffy paddles will work the best when mixing in your Part B, your initiator. Next, we have a food scale. You can go to Walmart, Target, or any local grocery store. Go to the kitchen section. You can get a scale that weighs in grams for about 14, 15 bucks. This is what you'll be using to weigh your initiator. Next, we have some Gorilla Tape. Gorilla Tape we recommend. It'll stick the best, especially when you lightly sand the primer, so the Gorilla Tape will stick to that sand. Next, have a couple trowels on hand to detail your shrinkage cracks. You can detail that with your base coat. We'll go over detailing of shrinkage cracks here shortly. Next are your mixing buckets. I like to use the 2-gallon mixing buckets from Home Depot with the ounces and gallons marked on the side, so you can properly mix your ratio, your primer with your initiator, top coat, whatever, to have the correct ounces to the correct grams of initiator. The quart size cups we use to measure the initiator, your Part B. You're going to be doing about 100 grams per gallon, so these are critical when you're weighing the proper amount of initiator. We have our 2040 Junction City Unimin, our silica sand. You can use the 2040 for the pedestrian systems. You can bump up to 2095 when you do our vehicular systems. Now for the base coat, we're going to use a metal rake for our base coat application. This is a 3/16" metal rake. This will put you down at about 65 mils. You're going to use each side. So each side you're going to get about 2,000 square feet. You can take these wing nuts off, you'll be able to flip it around, use the other side for about another 2,000 square feet. Again, the 3/16" will put you down at 65 mils. We also have a 1/4" rake that'll put you down at about 80 mils. Instead of back rolling with a nap roller, you're going to be using the spike roller to back roll the base coat. The metal rake and the spike roller are for the base coat application only. This will help get rid of any air that you mix into the product, and it'll help it self-level. For primer and top coat applications, you're going to use 18" or 9" nap rollers. 3/8 or a 1/2" will work fine. When you're doing your flashing, your roller grade base coat, you can use 3/4" naps. That'll help you get more millage. It'll get you your 55, 65 mils that you need on the wall. So I'm going to go over the materials that we have here briefly. This is your initiator here. Comes in 22 or 55-pound pails, depending on how much material you have. This is the white powder. Part B, none of this material will cure without your Part B, without your initiator. You're going to do about 75 to 100 grams per gallon. This is dependent on your ambient temperature. Most of the time here in Florida we're using 75 to 100 grams per gallon, whether it's top coat, base coat, or primer. Next we have our primer. You're going to put that down at about 80 to 90 square feet per gallon, 17 to 20 mils. You need at least 17 mils for it to properly cure. If you're below 17 mils, it will not properly cure. You're going to lightly broadcast your 2040 aggregate at about 7 pounds per 100 square feet. That's going to be a very light sand. That's going to cure in about 20 to 30 minutes. Once that's cured, you can move on to your base coat. We have two types of base coat. We have base coat roller, BCR, and we also have a BC, which is base coat for self-leveling, which is what we have here today. You're going to put that down at about 65 to 80 mils, 20 to 25 square foot per gallon. You're going to be applying that with your metal rake and your spike roller, as we mentioned before. 45 minutes to an hour cure for the base coat. Once base coat is fully cured, Move on to your top coat. Your top coat's going to go down at about 20 mils, 80 square feet a gallon, and you're going to broadcast your aggregate to your refusal. You're going to use your 2040. You're going to let that cure about 30 minutes, and then you're going to do a neat coat of the top coat over that at about 25 mils to encapsulate your sand. Now, before we start applying any material, we want to go over some basic concrete surface preparation for the Vulkem EWS system. First of all, we're looking for an ICRI concrete surface profile of 3 to 4. So these ICRI chips are very good to have on site. It'll let you know where you're at, how close you are, where you need to be. We have a 3 and a 4 here. So we recommend for all vehicular applications, we require shot blasting. You must shot blast for all vehicular applications. Pedestrian and under tile systems, you may use a PCD grinding wheel. There's no broom finish with this product. We're going to always require you to grind with the PCD grinding wheel. For restoration work, you must remove all existing coatings that are on the concrete. We're only as good as what we stick to, so any coatings, sealers, dust, latents, mold, paint must be removed prior to application. We need to be under a 6% moisture, so we like to use the Tremco CME4 moisture meters. If you're pegged out at 6%, we're going to ask you to wait until that moisture in the concrete goes down. Now, we are always looking for at least 3,500 PSI concrete strength, water cured 3,500 PSI strength. Now, before we put down any of this material, we want to talk about some basic substrate preparation. We're always recommending an ICRI concrete surface profile of 3 to 4. Now, we have these ICRI concrete surface profile chips. These are a great thing to have on a job, give you an idea of where you need to be at that 3 to 4 profile, and it gives you an idea of how close you are or where you need to be at. Now, concrete moisture, we always want to be below 6%. We like to use this Tremco CME4 moisture meter. If you're pegged out at 6%, we're going to ask you to wait until that moisture goes down in the concrete. Now, we want a minimum 3,500 PSI concrete strength, water cured 3,500 PSI. We're always recommending surface abrasion. We're going to ask you to use a PCD, polycarbon diamond grinding wheel, to get rid of any broom finish. There's no broom finish with this system. We're always going to knock down that broom finish to give you that ICRI of 3 to 4. Now, vehicular applications, we do require shot blasting for all vehicular applications. Okay, before applying any of these materials, we want to go over some basic concrete surface prep. We're always going to recommend an ICRI concrete surface profile of 3 to 4. These ICRI chips are very valuable to have on your job sites just to make sure where you want to be or how close you are to where you need to be. Usually we've got the 3 to 4 chips right here. This is what we're doing for most of our applications. So all jobs require some sort of surface abrasion. All vehicular jobs will require shot blasting. We have to shot blast on all of our vehicular applications. For pedestrian under tile, we're going to recommend that you get rid of your broom finish using a PCD grinding wheel, polycarbon diamond wheel. That's the one with the teeth on it. That knock off that broom finish, give you a swirl finish, give you closer to a 3 or 4, what we're looking for. We ask that it's a water cured, at least a minimum of 3,500 PSI concrete strength, and your moisture must be under 6%. We recommend using these Tremco CME4 moisture meters. And if you're pegged out at 6%, we're going to ask that you wait until that moisture level goes down in the concrete. Any concrete, especially for restoration, if you have a restoration job, you got to remove all existing coatings before we put down this material. All of the concrete, we're only as good as what we stick to, so we want clean concrete. Concrete surface should be free of any latents, mold, paint, existing membrane, sealers, etc. For shrinkage cracks, about a 1/16 inch or larger, you're going to want to route them out about 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. You can seal all your cracks using Dimonic 100. You're going to want a tool flush to the substrate. You're going to want to install that Dimonic 100 at least 1 day prior to your application. You're going to want that Dimonic 100 completely cured before you put down the EWS. You can also detail your cracks using our BC, our self-leveling base coat. You're going to route them all out, all your cracks 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch again. You'll prime your entire surface using the Puma primer, and you can have a guy in spikes with a chip brush, or you can attach a chip brush to a hole, tape it up, and have the guy sweep out the cracks, making sure that primer doesn't build up in the cracks. If that primer builds up too thick, it will outgas, so you want to sweep those cracks out as best you can. Once that primer is cured, You can use our self-leveling BC, and you're going to pre-stripe those cracks. Mix up a gallon or two of the base coat with the proper ratio of the initiator, and you can trowel the BC in the cracks and strike them flush. Once those cracks, the pre-striping is cured, the BC, you can go ahead and base coat the rest of your area. Any spalls shall be cleaned and free of any loose contaminants. Spalls can be repaired using our Tremco epoxy primer. You can do a 3-to-1 Tremco epoxy primer sand mix. You can also use our wear coat. Our wear coat is used in our vehicular applications. We can add filler powder with 3 parts sand to 1 part resin, and we can create a trowelable sand mix mortar as well. And you can use that for any spalls, fins, ridges, anything that'll telegraph through the coating, honeycombs. You'll want to use either the Tremco epoxy primer sand mix, our wear coat mortar mix, or we can also use a Tremco approved Euclid concrete repair mortar. So for proper detailing of drains, all drains should be clean and operative. Metal commercial drains we're looking for, bi-level drains. Drains shall be recessed lower than the deck surface. Surface shall be sloped to drain properly, so we're looking for positive sloping. Drains shall be detailed by cutting a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch keyway around the drain body, and it should be detailed with Demonic 100. Again, the Demonic 100 should be detailed and applied 1 day prior to application of the EWS system. We want a full cure on that Demonic 100. If drains are clean, then you can run your primer. The primer will stick to metal, so you can run your primer into the drain bowl, followed by the rest of the coating system ran into the drain bowl. You can cut a keyway, any terminations where you need to stop the coating, cut a keyway or a reglet 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch for proper termination of the coating. So now we're going to talk about our initiator. The initiator is your part B. That's what's going to allow all these materials to cure. If you do not add your initiator, none of the materials will cure. They'll stay wet. You can take these lids off, mix up this material all day. It will not cure until you put that part B in. Once the initiator does go in, you got to go. So same amount of initiator, whether it's top coat, base coat, primer, everything is going to get the same amount of initiator. The more initiator you add, the faster it will cure. So in Florida, we're using about 75 grams to 100 grams per gallon. The cooler it is, so if you're down to like 58 to 68 degrees, 50 to 68 degrees on those cooler winter days, you're going to use more initiator. Middle of the summertime, June, July, August, you're going to be using 75 grams per gallon. 75 grams per gallon is the absolute minimum that you can use. You cannot go below 75 grams. Like I said, we're usually using about 100 grams per gallon up until about June, July, August, September when it's really hot. Then we'll back it down to 75 grams per gallon. Biggest thing with the initiator is your kitchen scale. You're going to be weighing it in grams. Most important thing when you're weighing the initiator in these quart cups weigh about 38 to 40 grams. You put the cup on the scale, you must hit the tare or 0 button when that cup is on. When you have an empty cup on the scale, you want that scale to read 0. Then you can fill up your initiator. If you do not zero the cup, you will be 38 to 40 grams short, and you'll be under 75 to 100 grams, and the material will not cure properly. So it's very important that you always have to have that scale on site. The quart cups are zeroed, and so that's what it's 68 to 95 degrees. You're going to use 75 to 100 grams. That's 68 to 95. All these measurements and temperatures are on the bottom of our application instructions. So 68 to 95 degrees, you'll be using 75 to 100 grams. Once you get to 50 to 68 degrees, you're going to up it to about 150 grams per gallon. So next we have our Puma primer. You're going to want to pre-mix all the primers, all units of primer that you need to complete that scope area of work. So if you have 2,000 square feet, you're going to want to open up 4 pails and mix each pail for 3 minutes. Once you pre-mix each pail, then you can go ahead and batch it down to 2-3 gallon mixes and add your initiator. I tell guys to mix down to 2 or 3 gallons. It's a lot easier to spread those 2 or 3 gallons without it kicking or curing on you, rather than spreading 6 gallons, spreading that first 4, and then that last 2 might start kicking on you. So with the speed of this cure, it's easier to spread out 2 to 3 gallons, and right before you run out of that material, you should have the next batch start mixing, so then you can come and pour back into a wet edge. You always want to keep a wet edge, pour into a wet puddle at all times. We're looking for at least 17 mils for this primer. We're asking for 17 to 20 mils, that's about 80 to 90 square feet a gallon. If you go below 17 mils, you will not get a full cure. So if you're at 15 mils, that primer will stay tacky. If it stays tacky, that base coat will not want to stick to it. You need at least 17 mils for that full cure. So that's why we're asking for 17 to 20 mils. Once you have your gallons batched off to 2 or 3 gallon kits, you can start mixing your initiator. You're going to want to thoroughly mix that initiator into the primer for 1 to 2 minutes. Once you mix for that 1 to 2 minutes, it's time to go. That material is going to start curing. You're going to have about 10 minutes to spread it, and then it's going to be cured in about 20 to 30 minutes. So once you spread the material, you'll pour a ribbon out. It'll always cure faster in the bucket than out of the bucket. So I tell guys to pour out a ribbon on the concrete, start spreading your material using either an 18-inch or a 9-inch. I like using 18-inch nap rollers, 3/8 to 1/2 inch. It'll go faster. If you're using 9 inches, it just takes longer to spread and apply. Once you spread that material, you can back roll using the 18-inch nap, like I said, 3/8 or a 1/2 inch. Once that guy's back roll, behind the back rollers, there will be a sandman. You're going to throw about 7 pounds per 100 square feet. It's going to be a very light pepper of sand, not too much. The lighter, the better. So once you broadcast that aggregate, you do not want to back roll it. You want to leave that aggregate exposed. Once you toss that aggregate, the guy with spikes, back rollers, and the sandman will have spike shoes on. So once you throw that sand, let it sit and allow that primer to cure for about 30 minutes. So when you're pre-mixing these pails, you're going to want to do 3 minutes of pre-mix. You're going to want to do a minute on the bottom. You're going to do a minute kind of moving up and down, and then you'll do circular counterclockwise motions for the 3rd minute. So you're going to pop this lid off, make it bigger, just push this lever, take the lid off. You're going to thoroughly mix for 3 minutes to mix any of the curatives that are in there. Like I said, moving, staying on the bottom for a minute, up and down for a minute, and then counterclockwise or clockwise for a minute. Very important to wear safety glasses. So next we have our base coat. This is our BC. We have 3 types of base coat. We have our BC base coat, that's our self-leveling, which we have here. We also have a BCR, which is base coat roller. You'll use that on all your vertical flashing areas, planters. You'll be using the BCR in. We also have a BCT, which is base coat trowel. You use that for camp beads. You can trowel that on vertical surfaces as well, as you see fit. Mostly we're using our BC and our BCR. The BCR will go on at about 65 mils onto your flashing, your vertical surfaces. That you will not have to spike roll. You can use a 3/4 inch nap to apply the BCR. The BC you will be applying at 65 to 80 mils on all your horizontal surfaces. Again, you'll be using this notched metal rake. This is the 3/16 inch rake. This will put you down at 65 mils. Our 1/4 inch rake will put you down at 80 mils. Once you spread with this rake, you'll back roll with a spike roller. You will not be back rolling with nap rollers. You'll be using the spike roller. This will help get rid of any air that you mix into the BC, as well as it'll help it self-level when you're back rolling. So with the base coat, since you're only doing about 65 to 80 mils, you're going to be doing about 120 square feet to 150 square feet per pail. So once you pre-mix all units needed, so let's say you got 2,000 square feet, you're going to mix up about 15, 16 pails. You're going to mix each pail for 3 minutes. All 15 to 16 pails are going to be pre-mixed for 3 minutes each prior to adding your initiator. Once you have everything pre-mixed, you can start adding initiator. 75 to 100 grams per gallon at 68 degrees to 95 degrees. As the ambient temperature lowers, you're going to need more initiator to help that material cure. 50 degrees to 68 degrees, you'll be going up to 150 grams a gallon. For now, this time of year, we're doing 75 to 100 grams a gallon in this base coat. Now, like I said with the primer, you're batching that down to 2 or 3 gallons. You can mix up whole pails of base coat at a time with the initiator. Since you're only spreading about 120 to 150 square feet per pail, guys are able to spread that amount of square footage before the material kicks. So you can mix up whole pails of pre-mixed base coat. You want to pour out that entire pail of base coat. It's always going to cure faster in the bucket than out of the bucket. So you want to make sure you mix up that whole bucket thoroughly, 1 to 2 minutes with the initiator, You pour out a ribbon, the entire bucket, have them spread with the metal rake, and then there will be a guy with spikes, maybe two guys with two spike rollers in the material, spike roll in the material to help self-level. Okay, here's our Puma BC. This is what we'll be applying on horizontal substrates. Take the lid off. You're going to mix each unit for 3 minutes. Again, you're going to pre-mix, you're going to stay on the bottom for a minute, you're going to go up and down for a minute, and then you'll go counterclockwise or clockwise for a minute. 3 minutes pre-mix every unit that you need to complete the scope area, and then you can start dumping in Initiator. So here we have our Puma cleaner. It's very important, there is no xylene with this product. You will use the Puma cleaner to clean all your tools. If your membrane gets rained on, you'll clean the membrane with the Puma cleaner like you would xylene. Again, no xylene with this product. You will only be using the Puma cleaner. It's pure methacrylate. Your spike roller, your rake, mixing paddles will all be cleaned with this. This will take anything off of your tools. Again, if a membrane gets rained on, primer, base coat, you'll wipe the membrane with clean, fresh cleaner and either mop it, take a mop, wring out the mop real good, or you can rag wipe it. Okay, next we have our Puma TC. TC stands for top coat. Again, we're going to pre-mix all units before adding our Initiator. 2,000 square foot area to do, you're going to mix up 4 or 5 top coats, 3 minutes each. Once you mix up for 3 minutes, then you can, like the primer, again batch down into 2 or 3 gallon mixes. The top coat and the primer cure faster than the base coats. That has a little more methacrylate in it, therefore it cures faster, which is why I'm recommending to batch down 2 to 3 gallon mixes. Once you batch it down, pre-mix everything, batch down to 2 or 3 gallon kits, you can thoroughly mix your Initiator 1 to 2 minutes. Again, we're doing about 75 to 100 grams per gallon. So your first top coat, you're going to do 2 top coats for your pedestrian system. Your first top coat is going to go down at 20 mils. 20 mils is going to put you at about 80 square feet a gallon. So you're gonna pour out your 2 to 3 gallons. The guys are gonna spread it. They're gonna back roll side to side, east to west. Back rolling is critical for this first top coat. You want to go east to west or side to side, whatever your perimeter is, to get a nice self-leveling finish before you throw that sand. If you are back rolling north to south, you're gonna see the top and the bottom of your roller marks. So we're going to ask you to go side to side, help it self-level, pick up, move over, side to side, and then throw your aggregate. Your aggregate is going to be your Uniman 2040 Junction City. You're going to broadcast your aggregate to refusal. You're going to throw a lot of sand here. You're going to beach it. So you're going to do about 1 pound per square foot almost. Once the guy throws sand, you don't want to walk in it with spikes. You'll see dimples and holes in that sand. So you want to have the guy in one area. You're going to chicken feed the area. He's going to take a step back and he's going to continue to chicken feed. He will be last in line. You're going to start with the guy spreading. There's going to be a guy back rolling in spikes, and then there's going to be a guy throwing sand. Once you throw that sand to refusal, you're going to let that cure for about 30 to 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, you'll check it, make sure it's dry, and you're going to sweep, broom, and blow off any excess sand. All excess sand needs to be removed, so you're going to blow and broom 2 or 3 times. Once that excess sand is removed, you're going to apply a second coat of Puma top coat. That second top coat is going to go down at about 25 mils or 65 square feet a gallon. You can use a 25 to 30 mil notched rubber squeegee and back roll with an 18-inch nap. I like back rolling with 18-inch naps. You're going to get less roller marks. It's going to be a wider area to cover. You're going to use a 3/8 to a 1/2 inch, and again, you're going to go east to west, all the way from one end to another. Again, if you back roll north and south, you will see the top and the bottom of your roller marks. So for aesthetic purposes, we like rolling east to west for your back roll. Again, you're going to back roll one side. So again, now we're going to pre-mix our top coat. Again, you're going to pre-mix all your units that you need to use for the scope area. 2,000 square feet, 4 to 5 pails you're going to pre-mix before adding any Initiator. I'm going to pop the lid off. Now there will be some separation in the pail. Again, you're going to spend about a minute at the bottom. You're going to do a minute up and down, and then you're going to do clockwise or counterclockwise for a minute. Okay, so now we're going to apply our first coat of primer. Again, so we have our Initiator here. It's a white powder. This is your part B. White powder we have here. So now we're going to, it's very important, you keep your scale on a level surface. If it's not on a level surface, you won't get an accurate reading. So we're going to turn our scale on. Scale reads 0. You're going to put your empty cup, no powder in here. Empty cup on the scale. It's going to be about 40 grams. You must hit the 0 or the tare button. So that empty cup reads 0 when that cup is on it. You don't want to see 40 grams. You want to see 0 grams with an empty cup. Then you can add your initiator. So right here, we pre-mixed our primer for 3 minutes, and we batched it down to a gallon. This is a gallon of primer here, so we're going to use about 100 grams of initiator. Now I got 100 grams of initiator here. Again, 3-minute pre-mix, batch down to 1 gallon. Now we have 1 gallon of primer here. You're going to add your initiator and you're going to mix for about a minute, minute and a half. All right, now we're finishing mixing our initiator. Did about a minute and a half. After you mix with the powder, you're going to clean your paddle in Puma Cleaner. Now I'm going to pour a ribbon all the way across. Again, it's going to cure faster in the bucket than out of the bucket, so I want to get everything out of the bucket in order to spread it. Now again, this is going to go down at about 17 to 20 mils. We need at least 17 mils in order to get a proper full cure of that primer. If you are below 17 mils, it will not fully cure. It will stay tacky. If that primer stays tacky, that base coat will not stick to it. So 17 to 20 mils, 80 to 90 square foot a gallon. Now this is a small area, so we're spreading it side to side or north and south. Now when you spread, you're going to have a guy in spikes, you're going to back roll, and then there will be a guy throwing sand, a light sand, 7 pounds per 100. Again, 3/8 or 1/2 inch nap is okay. I mean, we're a small area, so I'm using a 9-inch roller. I usually recommend 18-inch rollers to help go faster. Alright, now that we have our primer spread, we're going to give it a nice back roll. Before this primer kicks and dry, you need to throw that sand, 7 pounds per 100. If it dries, obviously that sand will not stick. So you're going to have a guy, as soon as you use that nap and you're done with the area, knock that nap off. That nap will stick to the frame. If you don't get that nap off, you'll lose your frame. Usually you'll have a guy in spikes throwing sand. Now 7 pounds per 100 is going to be a very light sand. You're going to want to throw the sand up in the air and let it fall like rain. You don't want to throw it down at an angle or else you'll get waves. Real light. That's about all you're going to do right there. That's your primer application. You're going to be cured in about 20 to 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, you can apply your base coat. So now we just applied our primer. If you're mixing in whole pails or you're batching down to 3 gallons and you're mixing in the blue bucket, completely fine. If you have a gallon left over, you finish your area, you have a gallon left in the bucket, initiated material. It's a chemical reaction. It's going to create heat and pressure. As you can see here, this is starting to boil, bubble, and smoke a little bit. The bottom of that bucket is hot. So you're going to put that, if you have a full 6-gallon pail of initiated material. You're going to put that to the side. You're not going to put a lid on that. You want that to fully cure before you put a lid. If you put a lid on it, it's going to create heat and pressure. It'll blow that top right off. So let everything fully cure to the side before throwing it out and putting a lid on it. All right, so now we're going to apply the BC, the base coat. This is the self-leveling base coat. I have a gallon here in this bucket. I got 2 gallons here. We're going to make a 3-gallon batch. This material has been pre-mixed for 3 minutes before we batched it down. So I got a gallon in here. We'll pour this 2 gallons in to make 3 gallons. So now I know I have exactly 3 gallons in this bucket with my measurements on the side of the Home Depot buckets. Now for 3 gallons, we're going to need 100 grams a gallon. So here I have 300 grams of Initiator. This material will never cure until you put this powder in again. So I'm going to add my powder, 300 grams. I'm going to mix for about 1.5 minutes. Now material that you do not initiate, if you have pails that you do not use and you do not put Initiator, you can put the lid back on that. That material will be good for jobs down the road, good for years. You can put that back on the shelf at the shop and it'll be good for years. 3 years, 5 years. So we just finished mixing for about 1.5 minutes. You're going to clean your paddle with the Puma cleaner. Now this is where we're going to use our metal rake and our spike roller. I'm going to pour a ribbon out like I did the primer. Now this is going to go down at 65 mils with the 3/16 inch rake. We also have the 1/4 inch rake that'll put you down at our 80 mil system. With the metal rake, you're always going to be pulling the metal rake. You're not going to be pushing like a squeegee. You're going to want to put that metal rake at a 45-degree angle and you're pulling. You can pull down. Idea is with the 45 degrees on the rake, you want to stay in your line about halfway on that metal rake. You don't want to let that material run over the edge of that rake or else you're going to get lines all the way through your system. Now when you need more material, this is why we pre-mix everything. You're going to need more material. You don't want to wait 3 minutes for a pre-mix and another minute for the powder to be mixed, or else this line, this edge, will skin up on you, and you're going to pull it with the rake, it's going to booger up, you're going to have to grind it. So by the time you run out of material, you want that next batch to be mixed so you can pour wet on to wet edge at all times. So I'm going to pour right on top of where I just finished. Come back with the rake. You're going to have a guy in spiked shoes usually standing in the material, and he's going to stand right in the middle, and he's going to let this spike roller do the work for him. He's going to go side to side. Nice steady pace. This spike roller will pick up the material, it'll fling it up, and it'll drop it down like rain again. So you want a nice steady pace. This is going to help get rid of any rake marks. It's going to get any air out of the membrane that you mixed in. It's going to help it self-level. You can have 2 guys spike rolling. perpendicular to each other. We're going to have one guy going this way, one guy going east and west, north and south, one guy going east and west. Again, you don't want to be turning with this spike roller. You either want to go north, south, east, or west. If you start turning, you'll start making marks with the spike roller. That's it for your base coat application. Now with your rake and your spike roller, you can see that this base coat is going to dry on there. Same as the spike roller. You can go to Home Depot or Lowe's, wherever, get those big 18-inch, 24-inch, the deep black painter bins. Put a gallon of cleaner in there. Let this sit in there for about 20 minutes, and then you can take a wire brush or a compressor, and this will spin, and all this material, excess material, will come off. Same with your rake. If you let the rake soak in that cleaner for a good 20-30 minutes, all this base coat will peel right off, and you'll be able to take these wing nuts off and flip this over and use the other side once these teeth start squaring off. So now we have a base coat that's fully cured. Waited about 45 minutes to an hour for your base coat to cure. Now we have a gallon of top coat here, of pre-mix. We mixed the full pail for 3 minutes. We poured off a gallon. I have 100 grams of Initiator that will mix into the gallon of top coat for about 1.5 minutes. Alright, we mixed the material with the Initiator for about 1.5 minutes. You're going to clean your paddle in the Puma cleaner. Now we're looking for 20 mils on this first top coat. We're going to put down 20 mils, and you're going to broadcast to refusal with the aggregate. 20/40 aggregate for a pedestrian system. Now again, we put down this base coat. We put down the base coat at 65 mils using that 3/16 inch rake. 80 mil system, you're going to use that 1/4 inch rake. 80 square feet a gallon on the top coat, 20 mils. I'm going to use an 18-inch roller. You want to fully wet that roller. And then just like the rake, you're going to have one guy spreading. You're going to pull the material. Now if the membrane did get rained on prior to your application of the top coat, you can take that cleaner and you can clean that base coat, mop it or rag wipe it. You're gonna take a mop, wring it out with that mop bucket really well. You don't want that cleaner to puddle on this base coat. It will soften it up again. Back roll, east to west, north to south, edge to edge really. Now, once you roll out your system, your top coat, you're going to have a guy in spikes standing in the material. He's going to stand in one area, and he's going to chicken feed. You're going to broadcast to refusal, about 1 pound per square foot. You're going to beach it. Again, notice I'm throwing the sand up in the air. I'm not throwing it down at an angle. If you throw it at an angle, it will get wavy. Get a little more sand. Broadcast refusal. You're going to let this cure, you're going to let this fully dry, you're going to blow off all your excess sand. Once you blow off all this excess sand when this top coat is dry, that is your under tile system. That's your under tile finish. That's when they come, they'll put your thin set or whatever they're bonding to, they're going to bond to that sand. All right, so now we have our under tile system here. We blew off all the excess sand. What you're left with here is the sand adhered to the top coat, and this will be what you adhere your thin set and your tile to. Now we have a gallon of top coat that we're going to encapsulate the sand for our pedestrian system. This material has been pre-mixed for 3 minutes, and we pour it off a gallon. I got 100 grams of Initiator here that I'm going to mix for about 1.5 minutes. All right, we finished mixing our top coat for about 1.5 minutes. Again, I'm going to pour out my material on a ribbon. I'm going to use an 18-inch roller, nap roller, 3/8 or a 1/2 inch. Again, it always cures quicker in the bucket, so I like pouring out the membrane, or the top coat, I'm sorry. Now for this top coat, you can use a 25-30 mil squeegee, or you can just roll it out. Where you're looking for about 25 mils, about 65 square foot per gallon. Again, you're going to want to fully soak that nap. So this top coat's going to cure in about 30-45 minutes, and you're not going to open up till pedestrian traffic for about an hour. Once it cures for about an hour, you can open it up to pedestrian traffic. Again, 25 mils, about 65 square feet a gallon. So you're going to have one guy spread, 18-inch roller or a 25-30 mil squeegee. The guy in spikes, you can do a nice even back roll side to side. You're going to go 1, 2, you're going to pick up and move over and continue to back roll like that. That's your pedestrian system. That's going to cure in about 30 minutes. Open it up to foot traffic in about an hour. All right, so this concludes our Vulkem EWS training video for Florida for the pedestrian and under tile systems. I'd like to thank you for your time and thank you for using Tremco. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact your local Tremco rep.